What's going on, y'all? Today we're going to be talking about how I became a cat dad. Making this video because people who know me personally, sometimes they ask why do I have a cat. They know I'm allergic to cats, and they know I never had a cat growing up. Also, on social media, I do post my cat, and sometimes people ask about her. So yeah, backstory. My cat's name is Jingles. I'm watching her right now, trying to open up a blind. Yes, so my cat name is Jingles, and I named her Jingles because, again, no experience with cats. Oh my gosh, she just opened up a blind. She's so smart. No experience with cats, and when I first met her, she had a collar, and the collar had a bell on it, and every time she moved, jumped, walked, ran, the bell jingled. Actually, my mom named her Jingles because I couldn't come up with a name. So yeah, I also live in Hawaii, and Hawaii has a stray cat problem. Um, so yeah, if you're ever in Hawaii, feel free to grab a cat just to make sure they're not like a outside cat. I mean like an outside cat that's actually owned by somebody. Like how Jingles was. Okay, so April 2023, I know this date because I actually have a picture of when I first saw Jingles. Lucky, right? So mom and dad came to visit me, and they used my car. It was their last day on the island. So they used my car, they parked it, and I noticed the car door was open. So I went down to close it, and luckily I saw Jingles in the car. First time seeing her. I knew, stray cats were a thing in Hawaii, so I wasn't totally surprised. So she rang out, of course. She was not expecting me. um, and then that was it for that day. Mom and dad left later that evening, and I didn't think too much about it. So the next day I come home and I park my car, and there comes Jingles again. She comes walking up to my car, and I don't really know how to interact with cats, so Jingles just rubbed up on my leg, and I knelt down and pet her. Kind of kept my distance because stray cat, right? And I'm allergic. I haven't been around cats for many years. One of my homeboys, he had a cat, and an orange cat, and I was extremely allergic to that cat. Um, so kind of cautious with the Jingles. So that was that. And then like the next few weeks, every time I would come home and park my car, Jingles would walk up to me, and I'd say hi, and that's it. After a couple of weeks, she progressed, and when I opened my car door after I parked, she'd be sitting there, and she would jump in. And this is when I noticed she had a collar. So she would jump in, and she would, play in my car, just roll around, scratch my seats up a little bit, jump on the dashboard, lay on me. I would pet her. And this is when I became attached to her. So again, I noticed she had a collar and a little medallion or circle thing with a number on it, and said, "Hi, I'm lost, call me." So, I texted the number, thinking the cat's lost. I texted the number and said, "Hey, I have your cat. I'm at blah, blah, blah street." That's it. So the owner texted back right away and said, "Hi, the cat's not lost. We're actually your neighbors." So that was a relief because I was worried. So Jingles is a stray cat with a bell on her neck. How could she possibly hunt food, right? Every time she walks up to a bird or something, the bird will hear her bell. So, anyways, I'm glad she was not lost, but she was very, skinny and malnutritioned, malnourished. Um, so, that was a little concern in the back of my head, but whatever. So over the next few weeks, every day I come home, she'd be there waiting for me, jump in my car. Again, I'm not a cat experienced person, so no idea what cats ate besides cat food, obviously. But I wasn't going to go to the cat store to get food yet because I just met this cat. So I noticed she was extremely skinny, so I tried to give her expiring foods in my home, like celery, blueberries, strawberries. Of course, I gave her a water bowl. So over the next few months, every day I would come home again, and she'd jump on my lap in my car, and we would just hang out. I got attached so much. Sometimes at night, I'd be going to the gym, and I'd jump in my car, and she would jump in the car with me, and she would just sit there with me for like an hour, and I just threw it up to the universe or God or whatever, and just said, hey, I was not meant to go to the gym and just to hang out with Jingles. So the name Jingles came about because I couldn't think of a name, and the name that she had was Spectre, and I didn't like Spectre. So my mom came up with Jingles because I'm not a cat person, and neither is she. So we thought it was very unique that she had a bell on her collar, and every time she moved, jumped, etc., the bell would jingle, which was very cute. So eventually, she felt comfortable enough to walk up to me to my condo. I lived on the third floor and no elevator, so like 30 stairs roughly. So her little self would walk up all those stairs. And I can't have pets in my condo, but I couldn't say no to her. She just walked up 30 stairs. So I opened my door up to see what she would do, and of course, she walked in. And I have this on video too. Maybe I'll post it, or make these videos and pictures, different content or whatever. So she quickly made my home her home overnight, and for like the next year, every day I would come home, park my car, she'd be waiting there, or she would like see me from a distance and sprint towards me, or she would already be at my door sitting waiting for me. She did sleep over sometimes, or not sometimes, like every night. She liked to use the bathroom outdoors, so if she had to go, she would wake me up, and she'd go wait by the door. And then when she was done using the bathroom, and normally she would walk around and play outside, she would come back and sit by the door. I had a door and a screen door, so if it was during like the day, I would leave the door open and the screen door closed so I could see Jingles if she was there. And if it was at nighttime, I would just peek under my door because I had a pretty big crack under my door, and I could see her shadow sitting there all plumped up. So yeah, about a year came by, and I don't know if I mentioned, but I got extremely attached to her. She became my best friend very quickly. So yeah, a year went by, and one day, a regular day, I parked my car from coming home. She would she was waiting for me. She walked up to my car, and we were doing our regular thing, right? Just walking up to my apartment, and her owner, which was one of my neighbors, I would see her time for time. I guess her her owner just like truly neglected her and just left her outside all the time, like barely fed her. So, anyways, her owner came out and said, "Oh my God, thank you for finding her." And she picked Jingles up and she walked away. This happened a couple times before, so I just assumed it was like a vet appointment, which I was happy, right? Um, I wanted her health to be great, and since I wasn't the owner, I couldn't really take her to the vet. And she's outside, so I was often worried about her getting outside diseases or whatever. So no big deal. I figured I'd see Jingles after her vet appointment later that day because I assumed that her owner would, like always, neglect her and just leave her outside. So that day came and went, no Jingles. I thought no big deal. I probably I will see her in the morning. I'm sure she'd be waiting under my door. So the morning came, I opened up my door. She was not there. I said, okay, maybe she's by my car waiting for me. So I'm going out my car, doing what I do, and she's not there. So, I thought, okay, maybe after work, I'll definitely see her. So, all day during work, thinking about my baby Jingles, how excited I am to see her, waiting for me to come home, waiting for me by my parking spot. So I leave work, super excited to see Jingles. I go to my parking spot, she's not there. My parking slot is literally right in front of Jingles' owner's condo. So I park my car and I look up and I see that her owner's home is empty, and there's a open house sign, and there's people going in and out. So I guess not very empty, but it looks empty with strangers walking in and out. So my heart, I can't even explain how I felt, because that means that my best friend is gone. The owners took her and they moved. And dealing with a cat, cats aren't human, right? So I don't think anyways that they can comprehend, like, oh, I'm gone. How come I'm not gonna, see that one guy that, I was living with every day, right? And, I would like to say she was attached to me a little bit. So, I was beyond devastated, but at the same time, I was battling with myself. How sad can I really be? Because she's not my cat. But, she was living with me for a year. So it's like, she is my cat. She's definitely my best friend, but I don't own her. So, and I don't want to get into like religion too much. So, I don't want to offend anybody, so I apologize. But, I was born Christian, but I don't practice my faith. But I do pray, and I pray to a higher power, and I call my higher power God. So, all I could do to try to make it all make sense to me is to pray to God. Every day I pray to God and I ask God to please watch over Jingles. Please give her, lots of food, lots of snacks, lots of toys. Please let her be around somebody that truly cares for her. And please don't let her back outside again. um, since I couldn't do anything, I didn't know where she went. Not much that I could do because I'm not the owner, so I'm not gonna hunt Jingles down and grab her. I mean, I guess I could, I could put the mask on, right? But not much I could really do, right? So like I mentioned before, prayer, it was out of my hands, right? So I just, put it in God's hands, right? And I would tell God that Jingles is one of his best, creations, and I truly meant it. And please watch over her. Yeah, so like 2 weeks went by of me just praying, and I would have dreams, and like I could, in my dreams, I was dreaming that Jingles was like walking around my feet, and I could actually like feel Jingles walking on my feet. So yes, so 2 weeks went by, and still praying every day, kind of like really trying to put Jingles out of my mind, even though I'm praying. My mom would call me, and she would be concerned and actually ask me how I'm doing, and I would put on this big front, like, oh, is what it is, like, I can't do anything about it. So 2 weeks went by. One day I woke up, go to the gym, and my neighbors had a newborn, so I was used to babies crying. I could hear them out of my windows, and so I heard a baby cry, and I just figured it was my neighbor's newborn. But this cry, touched me in a way that the previous cries I heard from my neighbor's baby did not. But I was getting dressed, going to the gym. So on my way, and I kept hearing this cry, like it wasn't like a 1 second cry. Like it was like for 15 minutes. I guess I'm getting ready to go out the door to go to the gym. So as I'm heading to the door, the cry is getting louder and louder, and I'm at my front door opening up to go to the gym, and I noticed that the cry is coming from my door. And like for a split second, I'm thinking, did someone leave a baby on my doorstep? So I open the door while I'm having that thought, and there's Jingles. There's Jingles. And again, like the day she left, I can't explain how I felt again when she returned. She came in and she's crying, and she's yelling, and she's rubbing up against me, and it's just crazy. Like I have that on video. I have everything I mentioned, luckily, on video. And so it's just like she's back. Like, am I dreaming? Like, am I actually dreaming? Like this Like, what are you doing here? Like, you're gone, right? So I found out one of my other neighbors has the owner's number, and by the way, Jingles is like known throughout the neighborhood. Like other neighbors had tried to take her in, but the other neighbors also have cats, and they told me that Jingles doesn't like other cats. Like Jingles would try to fight the cats, hiss at them. So I got very lucky. Anyways, so my neighbor texted Jingles owners and said, "Hey, your cat's here. Do you plan on getting her?" And the owners, like before, I guess they really didn't care about her too much, and they responded with, "No, we're not gonna get her. Obviously, she likes that place enough to escape and run back, so she can stay there." I found out that Jingles owners moved and took her 2 miles up the road. So again, I actually thank God for not listening to my whole prayer, because I asked God to keep her inside. And the owners, God knows best, right? And the owners put Jingles outside in a new neighborhood. And luckily, Jingles was smart enough to smell her way back. And I don't know if it took Jingles a whole 2 weeks to come back or a couple hours, because there's nothing in between where I was living at and the new location of Jingles besides like dense Hawaiian woods. So, I mean, there is like a sidewalk and things like that and a couple of neighborhoods spread out, but most part, there's like big hills. It's crazy. So, yeah, and like, 2 miles away. So, anyways, I took this opportunity to not let Jingles go. I was not gonna let her go. I was ready to give the owners my whole life savings, go to jail over Jingles. Like, I wasn't gonna let her go. So I texted the owners and I said, "Hey, I have Jingles. Can I please adopt her?" And the owners said yes. So I got all the legal documentation ready and signed by the owner. And my plan for this was to make Jingles a, what do you call it? Like a emotional support animal. That's it, EMS, I think it's called. But so I needed the paperwork because I can't have pets in my apartment, right? And I knew one day after like 2 years of her living with me, I'm gonna get caught. So I was trying to prepare for that. So anyways, her owners signed off on her and I became an official dad. I think it was like July or August of 2020. No, probably June of 2024, somewhere around there. So anyways, that was one less worry I had to worry about. No more worried about Jingles getting kidnapped by her owners and moving away. But the next issue is, I can't have pets in my apartment. So like right after that, I had to go out of town for work to one of the other islands. I don't know if y'all know this, but Hawaii has like 7 islands. I didn't know this moving here. I know it sounds silly, right? So anyways, I had to go for one night, and again, I'm still learning cat dad. Luckily, I did finally buy a litter box, but I wasn't knowledgeable on if cats could be on their own overnight inside. So And I also didn't want Jingles to be seen by my landlord because there's lots of windows, you know, that are visible to the public, and Jingles loves sitting by the windows. So I bought her a very cute pink cat box, and I put all of her snacks and water and food, enough to last her a week in the cat box. So and I put a Apple Tag collar around her neck because I'm such a concerned cat dad. So that one night came and went, of course she was on my mind, and I don't know, my video just cut out because my power notification went on. So I came back and Jingles was there. The collar was off, and I never found the collar with the Apple Tag. That was kind of weird, but not a big deal. So the next day I got a text from my landlord, of course, right? Of all days, the one day I leave town. But backtrack a little bit. So I got the pink cat home because I was thinking, if I'm gonna hide a cat, I wouldn't have an outside cat home, right? It would look like a outside cat, and I'm following the rules by not allowing the cat inside. So that was my rationale. So the text from the landlord said, why do you have a pink cat home outside? I guess they were asking for the obvious reasons, and due to their rules and regulations, which I didn't read, you can't have anything outside your doors besides 5 pairs of shoes only. So whatever. I texted the landlord and I told half the truth. I said, there's this cat and I don't let her in, but I do feel bad because the cat is homeless and has no shelter. And the cat always follows me every day, and she always stands by my door. So I figured, I'd give her some shelter. And of course, the landlord wasn't buying this and wanted an overnight next day inspection. So I was up all night, scrubbing. I literally just got the litter box 2 days before this. So I had I dismantled the litter box, dumped the litter, and of course, I dumped the litter in a garbage bag, and as I'm taking it out, the garbage bag rips and all the litter goes all over all 3 flights of stairs. So I'm spending the whole morning before the inspection, swiping the litter, trying to make it not an obvious trail of cat litter that leads up to my apartment. Then I was thinking, what if the inspector is allergic to cats like me? So I better get every hair out of here. So it took me 12 hours to clean, and the whole time Jingles is by the door crying, trying to get in. So at 3 in the morning, I was like, screw it. I let Jingles in, defeats the whole purpose, right? And then she sits on my lap, and I'm just thinking yeah, I need to leave. I was thinking this before. I was expecting to come this soon, but it's not worth it. It's not worth hiding her every day. I don't think I mentioned to you before, but I would have to kick her out every morning because I don't want the landlord seeing her in the window or whatever. So yeah. So the same day I left the house, I wasn't gonna be there for the inspection. I don't want to talk to nobody. I ain't saw nothing. So inspection came and went. They never brought it up again, but I knew they were on to me. So, and before they could find out, I researched, and for those who don't know, Hawaii is hard enough to find housing here. Um, it's kind of like New York, like everything's small, etc. So luckily, I found a home, a condo across the street, and pet friendly. So that made it even harder finding a rental that allows pets. So I moved. It killed my bank account, destroyed it. But now Jingles and I, we have a home. I'm not worried about her getting kicked out. Her getting noticed by the landlord. I'm not worried about me having to kick her out and her crying in my arms as I'm kicking her out. I'm not worried about her owner coming up the stairs and taking Jingles from me. Maybe it's a little bit selfish now that I keep saying me. But again, I don't want to get into religion, but having Jingles back in my life is one of many reasons why I believe in a higher power. Try to think of something else to say. I had something else to say, but yeah, thank you all for watching my video. As you can see, I'm slowly trying to get my YouTube room up with some posters over here. I'm wearing the newest shirt called "Once You Go Mom, You Don't Go Back." So if you're still watching, thank you. Please like, comment, subscribe. Those big things can really help me find my next customer. See y'all next time.